The morning sky above New York City turned dark at exactly 9:17 a.m. on a Tuesday in June. People stopped walking, cars pulled over, and everyone looked up. What they saw made their hearts race and their bodies freeze. Hundreds of massive ships hung in the sky, blocking the sun. Each ship was bigger than any skyscraper on Earth, shaped like arrowheads with glowing red lights along their edges. Within minutes, the same scene played out over London, Tokyo, Moscow, Beijing, and 30 other major cities across the globe. The Draconian fleet had arrived. At the North American Defense Command Center in Colorado, alarm systems blared as radar operators watched their screens fill with unknown objects. Commander Eric Mason ran into the control room, his coffee spilling onto his uniform. "Report!" he shouted over the noise. Lieutenant Susan Ward pointed to the main screen. "Sir, we're tracking over 300 alien vessels in Earth's orbit. They appeared simultaneously, no warning." Commander Mason stared at the display. His 20 years of military experience had never prepared him for this moment. "Have they made contact?" "No, sir," Susan replied. "They're just hovering." The president called an emergency meeting with military leaders from around the world. As they gathered in the underground situation room, screens showed panicked crowds in major cities. Some people ran for cover while others stood in streets, filming the ships with their phones. In the Global Response Center in Switzerland, Dr. Olivia Bell received an urgent call. As the world's leading expert in communication theory, she was asked to help if the aliens tried to talk. "Dr. Bell," the voice on the phone said, "we need you in Geneva immediately. A military transport is on its way to pick you up." 3 hours after the ships appeared, every television, radio, phone, and computer on Earth broadcast the same message. The screen showed a tall, reptilian figure with scales that shimmered between green and gold. Its yellow eyes had vertical pupils like a snake's. When it spoke, its voice was deep and cold. "People of Earth, we are the Draconians. Your planet now belongs to us. You have 72 hours to surrender all resources and prepare for processing. Resistance is pointless. We have conquered 17 worlds before yours. Those who cooperate will be allowed to live as workers. Those who resist will be removed." The message repeated in every language on Earth. In the small town of Riverdale, about 100 miles from the nearest city, mechanic Frank Carter watched the message on the old TV in his repair shop. Unlike most people, Frank wasn't looking at the alien. He was studying the background behind it, the control room of what must be their ship. Frank had always been good at spotting details others missed. It came from years of fixing engines and finding the small problems that caused big failures. Something about the alien ship's control room didn't look right to him. Some of the screens behind the alien showed flashing red warnings. "They're having technical problems," he mumbled to himself. That night, while the world's leaders argued about how to respond to the threat, Frank couldn't sleep. He walked outside his small house at the edge of town and looked up at the stars. Then he saw it, 3 small lights moving in a strange pattern heading down toward the old mining area outside Riverdale. Frank grabbed his jacket, phone, and binoculars and jumped into his truck. 20 minutes later, he parked on a hill overlooking the abandoned mining complex where he used to work before it closed 10 years ago. Through his binoculars, he saw 3 small alien ships landing near the main entrance to the mine. "What are they looking for?" he whispered. He took out his phone and started recording. The ships were much smaller than the massive ones in orbit, probably scout vessels. The bottom of each ship opened, and several tall figures climbed out. They were definitely the same reptilian species from the message, wearing what looked like armored suits with glowing parts. Frank zoomed in as much as his phone allowed. The aliens were carrying equipment and seemed to be taking readings from the ground. One of them held up a device that flashed blue, and all the aliens looked at it with what Frank could only describe as excitement. He watched for nearly an hour as the aliens explored the area around the mine entrance. Then something strange happened. One of the aliens' suits started sparking. The alien stumbled, trying to remove part of its helmet. Another alien's equipment suddenly shut down. They all began looking at their devices with what seemed like confusion or alarm. Frank recorded everything until the aliens hurriedly boarded their ships and took off, heading back to orbit. His hand shook as he called his sister Kate, who worked for a government research facility. Kate, you're not going to believe what I just saw, he said when she answered. Frank, it's 3 in the morning, and the world is being invaded by aliens. What could possibly be more important than me trying to get some sleep before everything goes to hell tomorrow? I just watched some of those aliens exploring the old mining complex, and something weird happened to their equipment. I think they might have a weakness. Meanwhile, at NASA's main facility, engineer Diane Powell had been analyzing data from the alien ships nonstop since they appeared. Her team had managed to get readings on the energy signatures from the massive vessels, and something didn't make sense. Look at this, she said to her colleague, pointing at her screen. The energy output from their ships fluctuates every 43 minutes. It drops by almost 15% before returning to normal. Her colleague leaned closer. Could be a normal cycle in their systems. No, Diane said, shaking her head. The fluctuations match the variations in Earth's magnetic field. It's like they're being affected by it. She printed out her findings and headed to the emergency meeting, where General William Hayes was coordinating with scientists to find any possible defense against the alien threat. When Diane entered the room, Dr. Olivia Bell was explaining her analysis of the alien message. Their language contains unusual patterns, Dr. Bell said. They referred to Earth as the blue prize and humans as the troublesome variable. These terms suggest they know more about us than they're letting on. They might have been observing Earth for some time. General Hayes nodded. What about weaponry? Do we have any sense of their capabilities? A military analyst stood up. Based on their ship designs and what we can detect, their technology is at least 200 years ahead of ours. Their smallest vessels could probably wipe out an entire city. The room fell silent. 200 years was an impossible gap to overcome. That's when Diane spoke up. Sir, I found something strange in their energy signatures. The alien ships seem to be affected by Earth's magnetic field. Each time the field fluctuates, their energy output drops. General Hayes looked at her. Are you saying we might have a natural defense? I'm saying there might be something about Earth that doesn't play well with their technology. It's not enough to stop them, but it's something we should investigate. As the second day of the alien presence began, 3 important discoveries had been made. The aliens were interested in Earth's mines. Their equipment seemed to malfunction near certain Earth locations, and their massive ships were somehow affected by Earth's magnetic field. The question was whether humanity could connect these dots in time to save themselves from the Draconian fleet, a fleet that gave them just 48 more hours to surrender a planet that had been home to humans for thousands of years. No one knew it yet. But Earth itself was about to become humanity's greatest weapon. 48 hours remained until the Draconians' deadline. The world's leaders had tried sending peaceful messages to the alien fleet, offering to negotiate, but received only one response: prepare for processing. At a secure underground facility, in Colorado, a special team gathered around a large table. Commander Eric Mason paced back and forth while waiting for everyone to arrive. General William Hayes sat at the head of the table, reviewing reports from military bases worldwide. Is this everyone? General Hayes asked as the door closed. Commander Mason nodded. Yes, sir. The best minds we could gather on short notice. The team included Dr. Olivia Bell, the xenolinguistics expert who had been studying the Draconian communications, Diane Powell from NASA, who discovered the energy fluctuations in the alien ships, and Kate Carter, who worked for the government's Advanced Materials Research Division. We also have a civilian joining us, Commander Mason said, opening the door again. Frank Carter walked in, looking uncomfortable in the high-security facility. My brother, Kate explained. He has important information. General Hayes frowned but nodded. At this point, we need all the help we can get. Before they could begin, another man entered the room. He was older, with wild gray hair and glasses that kept sliding down his nose. Sorry I'm late, he said, dropping a stack of papers on the table. Traffic was terrible. Hard to believe people still care about traffic when aliens are about to conquer us. Everyone, this is Professor Alan Grant, General Hayes said. He's a theoretical physicist whose work might be relevant to our situation. Professor Grant had spent the last 15 years studying the unusual magnetic properties of Earth's core and crust. Most scientists had ignored his theories, calling them too strange to be taken seriously. "Let's begin," General Hayes said. "We have limited time. Frank Carter, show us what you recorded." Frank connected his phone to the room's main screen. Everyone, watch the footage of the Draconian scouts at the mining complex, particularly the part where their equipment seemed to malfunction. "Play that again," Professor Grant said, leaning forward. When the video showed the alien suit sparking, he slapped the table. "I knew it. This confirms my theory." "What theory?" Commander Mason asked. Professor Grant grabbed his papers and spread them across the table. "Earth isn't like other planets. Our magnetic field is unusually strong and complex. More importantly, certain minerals in our crust create localized magnetic anomalies. I believe these anomalies interfere with the aliens' technology." Diane Powell nodded excitedly. "That would explain the energy fluctuations I observed in their ships. But why would they be interested in the mining complex?" Professor Grant turned to Frank. "What was mined there?" "Mostly iron ore," Frank replied. "But there was a rare mineral they found in the deeper sections. Something the miners called blue spark, because it sometimes glowed when they cut into it." Professor Grant's eyes widened. "Could be magnetite, with rare earth elements. If my theories are correct, that mineral might generate a field that disrupts their technology." "So the aliens are looking for this mineral?" Kate asked. "Why? If it hurts their technology, why search for it?" Dr. Bell had been quiet, listening carefully. Now she spoke up. "In their communications, I noticed references to something called Earth contamination. They seemed concerned about it. Maybe they're trying to identify what's causing problems with their systems." As they discussed this discovery, reports came in from around the world. In Singapore, a Draconian scout ship had crashed into Marina Bay. In Brazil, locals reported seeing aliens abandoning their equipment in the Amazon rainforest. In South Africa, mining operations had been visited by alien scouts, who quickly retreated when their suits began malfunctioning. "It's happening everywhere," Commander Mason said, looking at the reports. "But it's not enough to stop their invasion. Those massive ships could still destroy our cities from orbit." "Maybe not," Diane said. "If small fluctuations in our magnetic field already affect their energy systems, what if we could amplify those fluctuations?" Professor Grant jumped from his chair. "Yes. If we create devices to enhance the natural magnetic properties of certain minerals, we might disrupt their technology even more. It wouldn't destroy them, but it could disable their ships." General Hayes looked skeptical. "Can you build such devices?" "The theory is solid," Professor Grant said. "But we need samples of the mineral to test it, and we need to know exactly what frequencies affect their technology most severely." "I can get us back into the mining complex," Frank offered. "I worked there for 10 years. I know ways in that aren't on any map. And I can analyze their communications to learn more about their technological weaknesses," Dr. Bell added. General Hayes stood up. "You have 24 hours to prove this theory. Commander Mason will provide whatever resources you need." The team split into groups. Diane and Professor Grant began designing the disruption devices they called pulse generators. Dr. Bell returned to the communications center to continue monitoring Draconian messages. Kate, Frank, and a small military team prepared to visit the mining complex. Meanwhile, in orbit aboard the massive Draconian mothership, Admiral Krex was facing a crisis. The reptilian commander slammed his scaled fist onto the control panel. "Another systems failure," he hissed at his chief scientist. "Explain this." The scientist, a smaller Draconian with darker scales, cowered slightly. "Something on this planet interferes with our technology, Admiral. The longer we remain in orbit, the worse it becomes." "Impossible," Admiral Krex growled. "Our technology has conquered worlds far more advanced than this primitive planet." "Yet the evidence is clear," the scientist insisted, showing a display of failing systems across the fleet. "Our weapon systems are down to 70% efficiency. Navigation computers fail randomly. Even our life support shows irregularities." Another Draconian officer approached, bowing low. "Admiral, the The scout teams report similar problems on the surface. Their equipment malfunctions near certain geological formations. They've identified unusual mineral deposits that might be the cause. Admiral Krex's yellow eyes narrowed. Then we must accelerate our plans. We cannot wait for the humans' surrender. Begin landing troops immediately. Secure these mineral deposits and eliminate any resistance. Back on Earth, Kate's team approached the abandoned mining complex as the sun set. They wore night vision, goggles, and carried minimal electronic equipment, fearing it might alert the aliens to their presence. Frank led them to a hidden entrance he had discovered years ago. "This tunnel connects to the main shaft," he whispered. "We need to reach level 5. That's where they found the blue spark mineral." They moved silently through the old tunnels, their flashlights revealing rusty tracks and abandoned mining carts. The air grew colder as they descended deeper into the earth. "How much farther?" Kate asked, her breath visible in the cold air. "Almost there," Frank replied. "The mineral was found in—" A noise ahead stopped him mid-sentence. They turned off their lights and listened. The sound of heavy footsteps echoed through the tunnel. Something was moving toward them, something that breathed with a raspy, inhuman sound. "Draconians," Kate whispered. They pressed themselves against the tunnel wall as 3 tall reptilian figures moved past their position. The aliens wore scaled down, versions of their full suits probably adapted for the confined space. Even in the darkness, Kate could see that one alien's suit was sparking around the joints. When the aliens were gone, the team continued to level 5. They found the mineral vein glowing faintly blue in the darkness. As they collected samples, their radios crackled with an urgent message from the surface. "Draconian troop ships are landing worldwide." Commander Mason's voice came through with static. "The invasion has begun early. Get what you need and get out now." Frank quickly filled a bag with mineral samples. "This should be enough," he said. As they turned to leave, the tunnel shook violently. Dust and small rocks fell from the ceiling. "What was that?" one of the soldiers asked. "The Draconians must be using some kind of energy weapon on the surface," Kate said. "We need to hurry." They moved faster through the tunnels, hearing the sounds of alien weapons fire growing louder. When they finally emerged on the surface, they saw Draconian troops engaging with human military forces near the main entrance to the mine. Despite their advanced technology, the aliens seemed to be struggling. Their weapons fired erratically, sometimes not firing at all. Their communication systems appeared to be failing, causing confusion in their ranks. "The mineral," Kate realized. "Its effect is stronger here, right at the source." They made their way back to their vehicles, avoiding the battle. As they drove away, Frank looked back at the mining complex one last time. "Earth is fighting back," he said quietly. "It's like the planet itself doesn't want them here." Little did he know how right he was. The real battle was just beginning, and Earth's greatest weapon was itself. 24 hours remained until the original Draconian deadline, but the aliens weren't waiting. Their troops had already landed in strategic locations around the globe. Cities went dark as power grids failed under Draconian attacks. Millions of people fled to rural areas, creating massive traffic jams on highways leading out of major urban centers. At the underground facility in Colorado, Kate's team arrived with the mineral samples from the Riverdale mining complex. Professor O. Grant and Diane Powell immediately began testing them in a makeshift laboratory. "Extraordinary," Professor Grant muttered as he examined the glowing blue mineral under specialized equipment. "This contains elements I've never seen before, combined with magnetite and rare earth metals." Diane connected the samples to various measuring devices. "The electromagnetic field it generates is subtle but unusual. It pulses at frequencies that don't occur naturally on Earth." "Could this really stop the Draconians?" Commander Mason asked, watching the scientists work. Professor Grant adjusted his glasses. "Stop them? No, but it might disable their technology. If we can amplify this field effect and broadcast it, we could create a weapon." Diane finished his thought. "A weapon that targets their systems but doesn't harm humans or Earth's environment." In another part of the facility, Dr. Bell continued monitoring Draconian communications. She noticed increasing panic in their messages. The aliens used words like contamination, system degradation, and unexplained failures more frequently. She rushed to the laboratory with her findings. "They're scared," she announced. "The Draconians don't understand what's happening to their technology. They've never encountered anything like this before." General Hayes entered the room with new reports from the front lines. "We're seeing something strange in the field. Draconian ground forces are experiencing massive equipment failures. Their weapons misfire or don't work at all. Their targeting systems can't lock onto our troops." He laid out photos on the table showing captured Draconian soldiers. They're scaled. Bodies were partially visible through damaged armor. "Their environment suits are failing too," he continued. "Something in our atmosphere seems to be affecting them. They're struggling to breathe without their suits functioning properly." Professor Grant snapped his fingers. "That's it. It's not just the mineral. It's the combination of the mineral's electromagnetic properties with Earth's atmosphere and magnetic field. Together, they create an environment that's naturally hostile to Draconian technology." "How do we use this?" General Hayes asked. Diane picked up a mineral sample. "We build pulse generators using this mineral as a core component. Each generator will amplify and broadcast the natural field effect. We place them strategically around the globe, focusing on areas where the Draconians have concentrated their forces." "How quickly can you build these devices?" Commander Mason asked. "With the right materials, we could have prototypes in 6 hours, Diane said. "Mass production would take longer." "You have 3 hours, General Hayes replied. "I'll get you whatever resources you need." While the scientists worked, reports came in from battlefields worldwide. Human forces were holding their own against technologically superior aliens whose equipment kept failing at critical moments. In Riverdale, Frank Carter had stayed behind when Kate returned to the base. He organized local residents into a resistance group. Armed only with hunting rifles and basic weapons, they prepared to defend their town as Draconian forces moved toward the mining complex. "They want this mine," Frank told the townspeople gathered in the old high school gym. "That means there's something here they either need or fear. Either way, we need to keep them out of it." The citizens of Riverdale set up barricades and traps around the mining complex. They used their knowledge of the local terrain to create ambush points and escape routes. When the Draconians arrived, they expected little resistance from what appeared to be a small, insignificant human settlement. Instead, they walked into carefully planned traps. Their advanced weapons misfired or shut down completely near the mine. Their communication systems failed, leaving each alien soldier isolated. Frank led a group that circled behind the aliens, cutting off their retreat. "Don't engage directly," he shouted to his neighbors. "Just keep them near the mine. The closer they get to it, the worse their equipment works." Back at the Colorado facility, the first pulse generator was ready for testing. It was the size of a small refrigerator with the blue mineral suspended in its center, surrounded by electromagnetic coils. "Ready?" Diane asked, her finger hovering over the activation switch. Everyone in the lab nodded, putting on protective goggles just in case. Diane flipped the switch. The mineral began to glow brighter and the machine hummed with increasing intensity. Instruments around the lab registered a strong electromagnetic pulse that spread outward in all directions. Suddenly, all electronic equipment in the room shut down. The lights went out, computer screens went black, and even battery-powered devices stopped working. "Turn it off," Commander Mason shouted in the darkness. Diane fumbled for the manual cutoff switch and pulled it. The humming stopped, and after a few seconds, the emergency lights came on. "It worked too well," Professor Grant said, looking at the fried equipment. "It affected our technology too." "We need to adjust the frequency," Diane said. "Make it target only Draconian technology specifically." Dr. Bell stepped forward. "I might be able to help with that. From my analysis of their communications, I've identified frequencies their systems use that are different from ours." The team worked frantically to modify the pulse generator. After 2 more hours, they had a working prototype that affected only alien technology. "We've done it," Professor Grant announced, holding up the modified device. This will disrupt Draconian systems within a 5-mile radius. If we build enough of these and place them strategically, we can drive them off the planet, General. Hayes finished. Manufacturing facilities around the country began producing pulse generators based on Diane and Professor Grant's design. Military aircraft transported them to battlefronts worldwide. Within hours, the devices were being activated near major Draconian landing zones. The effect was immediate and dramatic. Alien ground vehicles stopped working. Their weapons systems failed. Communication between Draconian units became impossible. Human forces, though technologically inferior, found themselves with a critical advantage as they fought to protect their world. In orbit, Admiral Krex received increasingly desperate reports from his ground forces. Standing on the bridge of his massive mothership, he watched as status indicators turned red across the tactical display. "How is this possible?" he hissed, tail lashing angrily behind him. "How can these primitives disable our technology?" The chief scientist approached cautiously. "Admiral, we've analyzed the data. The humans have found a way to amplify whatever natural effect was causing our systems to fail. It's spreading across the planet." "Can we counter it?" Krex demanded. "Not quickly," the scientist replied. "This phenomenon is unlike anything in our records. It would take extensive research to develop shielding." Another officer rushed onto the bridge. "Admiral, our secondary ships are reporting critical systems failures. Life support is failing on vessels 7 through 22. Admiral Krex made a decision. "Recall all ground forces immediately. Prepare the fleet for emergency departure." "But Admiral," his second-in-command protested, "the Council ordered us to take this planet at any cost." Krex turned, his yellow eyes blazing. "This planet is fighting back in ways we have never encountered. If we stay, we lose everything." On Earth, Dr. Bell intercepted the recall order. "They're retreating," she announced to the team. "The Draconians are ordering all their ground forces to return to orbit." Commander Mason looked skeptical. "They still have overwhelming firepower. Why would they retreat now?" "Because they're afraid," Kate said simply. "They've never failed before. They don't know how to handle it." As pulse generators activated around the globe, the effect on the Draconian fleet grew stronger. The alien ships in orbit began to experience catastrophic system failures. Their mighty weapons couldn't fire. Their shields flickered and failed. Navigation systems gave false readings. Earth's natural defenses, amplified by human ingenuity, were turning the tide. But no one expected what happened next. Something that would make Draconian fleet vanished on Earth the most mysterious event in human history. As pulse generators activated across the globe, the effect on the Draconian fleet grew more intense. On the mothership's bridge, warning alarms blared continuously. Red emergency lights cast an eerie glow over the scaled faces of the Draconian. Officers Admiral Krex gripped the command rail as another shudder ran through the massive vessel. "Status report," he demanded. "Critical systems failing throughout the fleet," his second-in-command reported. "Engines operating at 30% capacity. Weapons systems offline. Life support failing on decks 17 through 42. "What about the evacuation of our ground forces?" Krex asked. "Only 60% have returned to the ships. The rest are stranded. Their transport vessels disabled." Krex made the difficult decision all military leaders fear. "We cannot wait. Begin emergency jump preparations. We must save what remains of our fleet." On Earth, the Colorado facility had become the central command for humanity's defense. Dr. Bell monitored Draconian communications, while teams worldwide reported the effects of the pulse generators. "They're preparing to leave," Dr. Bell announced, listening to the frantic alien transmissions. "Their ships are powering up jump drives. Can they still attack us?" General Hayes asked. Professor Grant shook his head. "Unlikely. Their weapon systems appear completely disabled. They're running scared." Commander Mason wasn't convinced. "A cornered enemy is most dangerous. They might have backup systems or last resort weapons." "We need to keep pushing," Diane said. "Increase the power on all pulse generators to maximum. Don't give them time to adapt or recover." The order went out. Around the world, Technicians increased the output of the pulse, generators to their highest settings. The effect was immediate. In Riverdale, Frank Carter and the townspeople watched in amazement as the blue mineral in the mine began to glow brighter than ever before, visible through cracks in the ground. The few remaining Draconian soldiers collapsed, as their life support suits failed completely. In orbit, the situation aboard the Draconian mothership became desperate. The ship's chief engineer rushed onto the bridge. "Admiral, the jump drive is showing dangerous instability," he reported. "The human devices are creating unprecedented interference patterns in the drive core." "We have no choice," Admiral Krex replied. "Initiate the jump sequence. Get us away from this cursed planet." The engineer hesitated. "Sir, I cannot guarantee where we will end up. The navigation systems are giving random coordinates." "Anywhere is better than here," Krex hissed. "Execute the jump." At the Colorado facility, Diane Powell noticed something strange on her monitors. The energy readings from the Draconian ships are spiking to incredible levels. Something's happening. Up there. Everyone gathered around her screen watching as energy levels from the alien fleet climbed higher and higher. "They're trying to activate their faster-than-light drives," Professor Grant said. "But the pulse generators are interfering with the calculations. This could be catastrophic." In orbit, the massive mothership's engines glowed bright blue as the jump sequence initiated. Energy built up around the vessel, creating a distortion in space visible even from Earth's surface. Then something went wrong. Instead of making a clean jump to another sector of space, the mothership seemed to stretch and distort, as if being pulled in multiple directions at once. A blinding flash lit up Earth's sky, visible even in daylight like a second sun appearing for just a moment. When the light faded, the mothership was gone. Not destroyed, simply gone as if it had never been there. Across Earth's orbit, the same phenomenon repeated with the remaining Draconian vessels. Some ships crashed into each other as their navigation systems gave conflicting commands. Others accelerated in random directions, some shooting off toward deep space at incredible speeds. But most simply vanished in flashes of light, their jump drives activating incorrectly and sending them somewhere else. Within minutes, Earth's skies were clear. The Draconian fleet had vanished. In the Colorado facility, stunned silence gave way to cautious celebration. Monitors showed empty space, where hundreds of alien ships had been moments before. "What happened to them?" Commander Mason asked, staring at the screens. Professor Grant adjusted his glasses, looking equally shocked. "If I had to guess, their jump drives malfunctioned catastrophically. The pulse generators created interference patterns that corrupted their navigation systems. When they activated their drives, they jumped to random coordinates," Diane finished. "They could be anywhere in the galaxy, or beyond." Dr. Bell held up her hand for quiet as she listened to her headphones. "I'm picking up one final transmission from what must have been Admiral Krex's ship before it vanished." She played it through the room's speakers. The alien's voice sounded different now, no longer commanding and cold, but filled with something that could only be described as fear. "The Earth defense is unlike anything we have encountered. They weaponize their entire planet against us. Log this world is prohibited. No Draconian shall return to the Blue Death Trap." The message ended, followed by static. General Hayes broke the silence. "Is it over? Have we won?" "I think so," Dr. Bell said quietly. "They're gone." "But where did they go?" Kate asked. Professor Grant shrugged. "We may never know. Their jump technology appears to use principles we don't yet understand. They could be in another galaxy, another dimension, or scattered across the universe." The news spread quickly around the world. After 3 days of terror and fighting, the alien threat had mysteriously vanished. Celebrations erupted in cities and towns across the globe. For the first time in human history, the entire planet celebrated as one. In the days that followed, scientists studied the remaining Draconian technology left behind by stranded ground forces. They discovered that Earth's unique combination of magnetic field, mineral composition, and atmospheric conditions created what Professor Grant called the terrestrial incompatibility effect. "It's as if Earth naturally rejects certain types of advanced technology," he explained at a press conference. The Draconian systems were particularly vulnerable to this effect, which is why they failed so catastrophically. 3 months after the invasion, humanity began to rebuild and prepare for the future. The Global Space Initiative launched its first ships using modified Draconian technology, adapted to work within Earth's unique conditions. Commander Eric Mason stood on the bridge of the Earth's first interstellar vessel named Defender. Beside him were Dr. Olivia Bell, Diane Powell, and Kate Carter, who had all joined the mission. "Navigation ready?" Mason asked. "Course set, Commander," Diane replied from her station. "Communication systems online," Dr. Bell reported. "Engine core stable," Kate added. "The modifications are holding." Commander Mason nodded and looked at the main view screen showing Earth growing smaller as they moved away. "Our mission is to understand what's out there and establish humanity as a force to be respected. The Draconians won't be the last aliens we encounter." As the ship accelerated away from Earth, scientists on the planet continued studying the blue mineral that had helped save humanity. They discovered that its properties became even more pronounced when exposed to space. Earth's natural defenses wouldn't just protect the planet, they would extend to human ships traveling the stars. In scientific circles, the phenomenon became known as the terrestrial incompatibility effect, but among the general public, it was simply called Earth's shield. The day the Draconian fleet vanished became a global holiday, a reminder that humanity's greatest strength was the planet they called home. And throughout the galaxy, the story spread among other alien civilizations. The mysterious planet where an entire Draconian invasion fleet had vanished without a trace. Some believed the humans possessed weapons of unimaginable power. Others thought Earth itself was somehow alive and protected its inhabitants. No one knew the truth except humanity, that Earth's natural properties combined with human ingenuity had created a defense that not even the mighty Draconians could overcome. For years afterward, alien ships approaching the solar system did so with extreme caution. Many chose to avoid Earth entirely. Those that did make contact came in peace, offering trade and knowledge rather than threats. The mystery of what happened to the Draconian fleet remained unsolved. But perhaps that was for the best. The uncertainty protected humanity better than any weapon ever could. No one knew exactly how the Draconian fleet vanished on Earth, and that was precisely why no one dared to invade again.